Today I'm going to share with you my favorite recipe for cooking game birds. You've probably heard of the famous Chinese dish Kung Pao chicken. Well, we call this one Kung Pao Pheasant, or Kung Pao chukar, Kung Pao quail. Well, here in China, pheasant is by far the most common. I've been here since 2004, and since 2008 found out where we could hunt, and it's amazing. If you can get into a place where they allow hunting and you can get a shotgun, the wild birds here are just incredible. You see 1,000 or more per day, and there's no limit. You can shoot roosters, hens, because there's very little hunting pressure, and the farmland up into the mountains goes forever, and there's millions of them. So yeah, it's just some of the tail feathers of pheasants I've shot over the years here. This recipe, it works great on all upland game birds. I've tried it on guinea fowl, wild turkey, blue grouse, ruffed grouse, francolin, various species of francolin, of course pheasant, a few different species of pheasant. We've got several here. Hungarian partridge, what we have here in Beijing. We have chukars here too. We have Dorian partridge, which is like a Hungarian partridge. It works just great on all of these. So here we have a nice rooster pheasant that has been in the freezer for 2 years. Now, that's a pretty long time, but I like to keep them in the feather, guts, everything in them. This way they get protected quite a bit from freezer burn and last in the freezer a lot longer. Basically, after I get a bunch of pheasants, I like to hang them outside if it's cool enough, and usually it's pretty cool. 2 weeks or so, at least a week. That really does a lot to improve the flavor. It moistens it up, breaks down a lot of the connective tissues and whatnot, tenderizes it. It just gives it a better flavor too. So, number one, age it a week to 2 depending on the temperature. And you want it not freezing, but also not too warm. Like in the 30s Fahrenheit is great. 40s is okay too. So, froze for 2 years. I had a big pile, like 70 of them. This is the last one. So, next step is to pluck it. I know it's a pain to pluck these. It's really not easy. The skin tears. You got to be real careful and go slowly. But the skin is where all the fat is and a lot of flavor. So it's really a shame to toss out the skin. And that's why I like to pluck my birds. Now, this one's been frozen for such a long time, it may turn out that the skin's freezer burn, in which case I'll just skin it. But I'm going to give it a try, and this is how I do it. Just little bits of feathers at a time, and you kind of have to keep your other fingers down at the base, because if you do too many feathers, it just tears, and it makes a big mess. So just do this. It's going to take a while. There, you can see that skin doesn't look freezer burn, and it's got a lot of fat. So I definitely want to keep the skin. Go through and do this. You can use hot water, but I never found it to be all that helpful. If I have a whole bunch to do, yes, I used to do it that way. I'd come home with a bunch, get hot water and do them all, but then I realized it actually makes more sense to, like I said, just freeze them in the feathers. After 2 years, if this thing didn't have feathers on it, it would be really freezer burning. Look at it. I mean, that skin looks great. There's no freezer burning at all on that. Nor does it have a freezer burn smell. Often where you'll find freezer burn is where the shot holes are. In fact, there's a shot hole here, and it does have some freezer burn on it, right here. Later on, we'll trim out any bad parts, including any freezer burn parts. But for now, just get all these feathers off. nice thing about not having to clean them when you get home. I used to get back from a day or a weekend of hunting and have a big pile of birds to clean, and tired and got all kinds of things to clean up. The last thing you want to do is spend hours cleaning birds. I used to think you had to do it then, and many a times I was really tired cleaning birds. In fact, I remember one time I cleaned some geese all night long until the sun came up. Never gonna do that again. This way, you get what you're gonna eat out, usually one, maybe two. You pick a time that's convenient, like now, for example, and you take your time and do a really thorough job, and it's not so overwhelming. Tail feathers one at a time, otherwise you'll pull a little tail off. These fingers, they hold the skin, pinch it so that it doesn't rip. That's really the biggest problem, is this pheasant skins, especially after being aged and then frozen for a long time. It tears very easily. With a duck, you just tear into it, start ripping feathers out as fast as you can, and it generally won't rip the skin. Pheasant's another story. If this bird had not been frozen for so long, I would bother to pluck out the entire neck and head, and then it does help to dip it in hot water, because I like to make soup with the carcass, and I like to use the neck and head for that. But because this thing's been frozen so long, I don't think it's going to be worth doing, so just go partially up the neck here. A lot of fat in the neck skin, so keep some of it. This wing had been broken from shot, so I cut it off where it broke, but this one I like to go up to the first joint, save all the meat in the wing there. We'll use that. And also, if this bird were not so old, I would pluck out the wings all the way out to the tips, because those two are good in the soup stock. But it's pretty well plucked now. I'm just cleaning up. A few little feathers are still here, and then move over to the stove and singe it. You can see the skin is still in really nice condition. Plenty of fat. It's a good smell to it. Don't smell the freezer burn. Amazing, really. 2 years in the freezer. Now the next step before I run water over this and really clean it up is to hit it with some fire to burn off all the little hair feathers, all these little things. Those you can't pluck out. So let's do that. A blowtorch works really great for this. I don't have a blowtorch, so I just put the gas flame on low and just slowly hit all the spots with that without holding it in any one place too long, because you don't want to burn it. It doesn't take much to burn away all those little feathers. See all those little hair-like feathers? They're gone. I'll take this back over the sink. Okay, first let's deal with these legs. I like to just cut through the skin carefully, but not the underlying sinews. And then break it back, yank it out. That way you get all the sinews out of the meat real easily. Save some work later. Okay, now go through and carefully get off the rest of these feathers. Okay, that's a pretty clean pheasant. Now we can move on to gutting it. Just open up the cavity here, reach in, pull out all the guts. Rinse it out. And then I'm just going to set this here to drain. And as for the guts, I'm going to keep them, cook something else later. I'll keep the liver, heart, more liver, gizzard. Gizzard needs to be cleaned, so we're going to leave this here to drain for a while, and then we'll cut it up. Okay, this is drained, dried good enough. So now what we need to do is get all of the meat off the carcass and into small bite-sized pieces to be marinated. So here's how I like to do it. Sharpened up this knife really sharp, and first I'm just gonna remove the legs, pop through that hip joint, and just keep the blade right up against the bone so that you get all the meat. There's one leg. Now on the breast, the keel of the breast is right there, so you just go right up against it. And again, just right against the bone and separate all that meat. Okay, now this small piece here, I like to reach down in there. See this white sinew? That's a big one. So I like to pinch that and just pull it. So this is just a nice tender piece of meat. Got some feathers in the meat from the shot. Just take that out. Okay, just lay this meat aside. Then the rest of this breast can come out. Keep all that skin. Worked hard to get the feathers off. Don't want to waste any skin. Now there's a little bit of meat still on the carcass. There's a nice big piece right on the back here. The skin attached to it there. And cut that into two, and you can go straight into the bowl. Same on this side. We lost one wing that we shot up. There's no meat there. But on this one there's some, so I'm going to cut down. Through, leaving it attached up here at the top, outer end. So, and then I just take the knife, hold it down against the cutting board, and get the sinews out. Sinews stay here, meat and skin there. That's going to be for soup. I've got basically all the meat off of it. So, soup. Okay, breast meat. Just kind of go through and find places like this where there's shot or feathers or blood. Just kind of clean those up. But what I want to do is take and cut into pieces about like that, bite-sized pieces. like this, that. Okay, let's do this. If the skin comes off, that's fine. Just keep it though, because it's got all that fat, yellow fat, and flavor is very nice. The whole reason we pluck the pheasant, which is the most tedious part of this whole process, is plucking. That's it for the breast meat. Now, the legs. The thigh is easy. You just carefully trim the meat away from the thigh bone. Like so, try and get it all. And then when you get up to the joint there, just take all of this off in one big piece. Like so. And then again, there's no sinews in the thigh, it's nice. But there's some feathers that got shot into it here. Clean that up a bit. Now the drumstick. Remember, we got most of those sinews out already by pulling off the feet the way I did it. But there's still going to be some in there. And I like to just do this in two parts. One below the bone and one above. So go like this right up against the bone. Get this half of the meat separated from the bone. And then, just like we did before with the wing, put the knife against it and just pull. And this skin down here is no good, there's no fat. So just the skin and the sinews is really not much. Pull them all out. All come off. Then you end up with, if there's sinews in there, you can get them out with the knife. I got them all, so keep the meat. Now, the other half. Soup bone. Yeah, got a sinew stuck in there. Easy, just pull it out like this. There's a shot. It's like a number 7.5 lead shot. So that's it. And there we have our all cut up, clean, nice pheasant meat, ready to marinate. Soup on. So when I make soup, I prefer to first bake these really crispy, almost to the point of burning them in the oven. And then we will slow cook them, boil down, and makes a very nice soup stock. So in the oven they go. So the next step for today, and we'll be done until tomorrow, is to marinate this. So I've got here some ground black pepper, some sugar, cornstarch, sesame oil. These are ground hot pepper, soy sauce, and this is Chinese white liquor, baijiu they call it. Terrible drinking stuff, I think, but it makes a nice addition to this. Now, brandy works fine, cooking wine, sherry, all of that works fine. You need some alcohol in there is good, but if you don't have this Chinese wine, it's fine. So, for sugar, let's just kind of eyeball it. For this one pheasant, I'd say that's maybe 2 teaspoons or so. A few shakes of black pepper, and cornstarch. I'd say that's a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half. We're going to be putting peppers in later. You don't have to put pepper flakes in the meat like this, but I like it. I like it spicy, so there's about 1.5 teaspoons of pepper flakes. Now the Chinese liquor, put about 2 tablespoons of that in there. And same with the soy sauce, about 2 tablespoons. And then the sesame oil, a teaspoon or so of that, maybe a little more. Now we just mix all this up real good. And it really smells great already. One of those seasonings in there. Okay, pat this down level so everything is down in the juices. There, just like that. And that'll go in the refrigerator. There we go. We'll cook that tomorrow, so we'll just let it marinate for 24 hours. Okay, soup bones are great. Smell wonderful. And you can see they're crispy brown, but not quite burnt. That's perfect. I'll stick that in a crock pot with some fresh ginger and some salt. Just let it cook down and it'll become really good pheasant's broth. Four hours. So this is simmered for 4 hours. And that smells great. So this is stock. It's now been over 24 hours. We did this marinating yesterday, and now you can see, sitting in the refrigerator all this time, that the meat has absorbed pretty much all of the liquid from our marinade. The Chinese liquor and soy sauce and whatnot. It's perfect. That's what we want. So now I'm going to cut up into small pieces 2 bell peppers, 1 red onion, some ginger, and a head of garlic. And 6 very hot bird's eye peppers. Obviously you can put more, put less, but I like to make mine pretty spicy, so. The next step is to deep fry our peanuts. Very important, these are raw peanuts. Definitely need to buy raw peanuts, not roasted, cooked, salted, anything like that. Just straight raw peanuts. And peanut oil. Very important, these 2 ingredients. So I've got my wok here. A deep fryer works, I've used that. And I'm just going to put a bunch of oil into my wok so I can submerge the peanuts. And then I'm going to use the same oil to deep fry the meat. So you need pretty liberal amount of oil in there, which I reuse, so there's no waste here. And let's fire this up, put that on high, pretty close to high, a little less. And I'm gonna have to turn this on. We get that really hot. And then that's kind of a lot, but it's fine. We'll use this many. You could go with a little less. The peanuts turn out really good, really good. It's one of the best parts of this recipe, so a few extras isn't gonna hurt. This oil is gonna get very hot, so as it does so, we need to stir and prepare a bowl to get this stuff when it's ready. It's easy to burn the peanuts. I've done it before a few times. You got to be careful not to burn the peanuts. What you want is a golden brown, crispy peanut, but you don't want it to be dark brown or black, then it just tastes burnt. It's not very good. And if you underdo it, it's bitter, it's not nice. So you got to get it right. It's not that hard. You wait until they start hissing and bubbling and cracking open. Start just turning that rich golden brown color. And then you got to get them out of the oil quickly. Dump them into a bowl. So we're going to stir and wait and watch for that perfect time to get them out of the oil. The peanuts are bubbling really good now, but they're not cooked, not yet. You got to start cracking open and really hissing. They're still very white, which means they're not cooked. Starting to darken up a bit. Most of them have cracked. So this is the critical time right now. You gotta be very careful not to let them go past that golden brown and a dark yellowish color, which they're getting close to it now. Yet you gotta cook them all the way, so it's kind of a narrow line here. Okay, now you see that? They're beginning to be a nice rich golden brown color. Alright, they're done now. So, turn off the heat and quickly get them out of the oil. They're perfect right now. This is exactly what we want. By the way, you just cook peanuts like that, put some salt on them, they make a really good snack. Awesome with beer. Really good. And they're excellent with this recipe. There you can see they're a nice golden brown color. Crispy. Excellent. So, the oil is still piping hot. We're going to turn the heat back up. The water. That's hot. So, take our pheasant. Now the key here is to quickly separate all the pieces, and you can't overcook this. It's critical, you cannot overcook it or it will dry it out. It has to be fast. And what you want is a nice crispy golden brown color on the outside, but moist on the middle. So break them all apart, stirring them around. The oil has to be really hot for this to work. And it's best to get the meat out of the fridge, a couple hours in advance so it's not super cold, because it will drop that temperature down in the oil. Ready for it to get that crispiness on the outside. When that happens, it's ready. Okay, they're getting a little bit of a crispy edge to them. Kind of golden brown on the outside. Turn off the heat. Take these out. That yellow there, that's that fat skin that we made sure not to throw out by plucking. I'll run that through a strainer and save that oil. I've left about a tablespoon in the wok because we will need that for the next part of this. I'm going to strain that out. Now that oil is very nice. We'll save that for future cooking. All right, now let's get the fire going again. Got a little over a tablespoon in there of oil still. And these are Sichuan numbing peppercorns, the green ones. Okay? Stick a teaspoon and a half or so in there. And then all of these garlic, ginger, and hot pepper herbs that we did in here. And the bell peppers and onions. You just want to stir and scrape and keep cooking this until those cook down. And you don't want to overcook them. You know, where they're soggy, you want to get them cooked. So at this point you can see the peppers and onions are starting to give off a lot of water. And they've softened up quite a bit. So at this point, this is done. So we take the meat and the peanuts, try to heat off. Now is when we add our salt. Couple teaspoons, 1.5 teaspoons is enough. A little bit of sesame oil. Mix this all up, and it's done. Delicious.